Welcome to the studio at That Nerd Show. I am Marcus Blake, and we are speaking with the filmmakers behind the new movie coming out on August 1st, Icon. Parker Padgett, Devon Hales, and director Tony Ahedo. Welcome to That Nerd Show. I know it's the first time that you guys have interviewed with us, so it's a pleasure, and we are ready to jump in talking about this film. So is everybody doing great this morning?
Yeah.
All right. So I got to tell you, this film was more intense than I thought it was going to be, but it was very, very good. And so I want to start with you, Tony, about the inspiration behind this film. How did you come to write it? Is it based off anyone that you know? So what's the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, so it's funny because with the release coming out, I just did a timeline of the development of this script. And so it started with a short story I wrote in 2014. And it was just for a class at the time in college. And it was just to kind of write about a memory that you had. So I ended up writing about the arcade scene in Icon, that memory, which is a real memory that I had from my dad, which kind of sparked the inception of the story. And from there, it just kind of grew into what it was today.
Okay. Parker, Devon, I'll start with you, Devon. How did you come to this project? Was it the typical, you got a script, an audition, or something different?
I received a couple portions of the script, audition sides. I auditioned in Atlanta, and I don't remember what exactly the turnaround time was, but yeah, sent my audition in like you do, waited to hear, and yeah, was ultimately cast in the film. So. And
Parker, how about you?
Well, I had the pleasure of meeting Tony on the first feature film that I worked on called Surviving Lunch. Tony was on the crew of that film. And he and I kind of hit it off, and he had mentioned on that set, hey, like I may be working on something in the future, be on the lookout. And a couple years later, I get a text from Tony, and he says, hey, like we're moving forward with this movie Icon. I would love for you to audition for it. I sent in a virtual audition, so to speak. And then we met back up in person a couple of weeks later. He actually came to where I'm going to college now and auditioned in person for the callback. And here we are.
All right. Well, this was shot during before the pandemic, correct?
Yeah.
All right. It's always interesting to interview filmmakers now. It's like, did you shoot this before the pandemic? Did you shoot it after? How it's a very different world that we live in. So we always like to talk about locations because they're kind of their own characters. And Tony, you're from Florida. What is so unique about St. Petersburg or Icon, and where you shot this compared to shooting films at other places?
Yeah, so I feel like St. Pete specifically isn't like your normal Florida town. It is like this mix. It's like a city. There's like a great downtown, and there's a lot of just different sides to Florida. So, what I'm used to is kind of like a little bit of an urban kind of cool city, which I wanted to show. So that's why a lot of locations, those are real skate parks in St. Pete. Those are, we're going down the trail to the Tropicana Field, which is where the Tampa Bay Rays play. We're showing off these little alcoves that kind of really only the locals might know about. They're, one of my favorite sections where we shot is Parker's like sitting on this giant wall. Mm-hmm. And like all their friends are skateboarding on this trail, and like that is like another like kind of local park that not if you were driving by you'd have no idea. So in Florida's always been kind of represented as either Miami, Orlando, or just beaches, and so I really wanted to kind of let my hometown just kind of shine and almost be a character within itself.
Well, speaking of skate parks, Parker, are you a skater at all, or is that something that you kind of had to learn for this film?
I have skateboarded in the past. I enjoyed going to skate parks when I was a kid. A lot of that comes from inspiration from my stepbrothers, who are both very good at skateboarding. Tony pushed my limit in terms of about everything you see in Icon is about the extent of my skateboarding abilities. There was a kind of a running joke on set too. I was just kept on trying to land a kickflip, and it never happened, but there's a couple of shots in there. If you see something that really blows you away, it's probably Tony's feet on the board. But
Yeah.
I can stand and I can go fast on a skateboard, but that's what you see is about the extent of
We
it.
like how you're being honest. I don't know. I'd be bragging, but oh yeah, I totally did that. Absolutely. So, well, I want to get into the story itself. First of all, now that it's being released, and I know this was not intended when you shot it, but who knew that it would, have a political ramification at this point? But one of the things that I noticed is you aren't dealing with just one side of the issue. And when we talk about teen pregnancy or unwanted pregnancy, it's usually more from the female standpoint because of the one carrying the child. But you played a lot more on Parker's character and him having to deal with it and trying to do the right thing. Did you intentionally want it more from his perspective, or to be ambiguous and so you can kind of see from both sides?
Yeah, so the film is set from Sam's point of view. It was very hard to not write a lot more scenes with Anna and to kind of still get her story through there. But
Right.
You watch the film, Sam's in pretty much every single scene.
Yeah.
Because it's directly from his point of view. Yeah, I felt that the male side of these kind of situations hasn't been explored that much in film, because there's a lot of great stories about what women go through
Right.
when it happens. And so I didn't want to diminish that, but I also wanted to just kind of bring to light this other side, what could be going through, what's going on. I mean, the film is so much, it really is just about choice and making decisions. And the whole film is just one giant decision between these two characters.
Right. Hard enough when, you're an adult trying to figure this out, and then, two teenagers. So talking about researching, getting into, the head of your characters. And I wanted to start with you, Devon, regarding that. Sorry about the dogs barking in the background there. We can edit that out later. Anyway, what kind of research did you do? I mean, how did you talk to people about who have been through this, people with Planned Parenthood? How do you get in the perspective, in the head of the character you're playing regarding this issue?
Sure. Well, Tony did a great job of making the script very live, very detailed, some great writing to work on, which is always where I go to first. And especially since this is a character who is dealing with this for the very first time, she's not equipped with a ton of that information. And so I do think it's good to keep myself in that sort of headspace. Yeah, talking a lot to Tony on set, and but trying to stay more true to these two characters who are not equipped with a ton of knowledge and are learning things on the fly. And I'm also an actor who likes to stay more in the material that's in front of me. So I'll be honest and say that.
Parker, how about you? I mean, did you talk to, guys who had been young fathers, who had been through this before?
No, if I'm being honest, I wouldn't say that I necessarily have direct access to people who have experienced this type of thing. However, I will say that my approach did differ from what Devon explained. While I do focus on the script and everything that is put in front of me, for me, in getting to know Sam, it was very important for me to know exactly what it is that makes Sam tick. So what's his favorite song? What's his favorite movie? What are the actual memories that aren't shown in the film that he does have with his father? And Tony gets a lot of those points across, but it's important for me to have these things that Sam can hold on to that kind of shine through subliminally. about his personality, about why he's making the decisions he's making, about why he says the words he says to Devon or to his mom or to his friends when he's feeling down and out about the entire situation. So having
Right.
kind of a holistic approach to this character was very important to me. And of course, having Tony and Devon and everyone else on set, the cast especially, who we were so comfortable playing off of each other, and Tony was so comfortable letting us kind of really make the roles our own.
Right.
So I would say it's just a beautiful combination of all of these factors playing into that.
Right. Well, something else that where people can go, you know, I mean, you didn't talk about Planned Parenthood, you didn't talk about clinics or anything like that. You left that all up for the audience. And it's, you know, these two characters aren't really exploring it. It's not like the movie Juno, where, you know, you have a whole funny scene going into a clinic with, you know, an anti-abortion activist and stuff protesting outside. But at the same time, you know, you take a character like Sam, who doesn't have a lot of options, but he knows people that deal weed and kind of gets into that. Is your intention to keep things more ambiguous, to where things aren't mentioned and it's for the audience to decide what are the better choices that the character should make? Or I guess, you know, keeping it that way to where we kind of identify with characters a little bit more?
So I think the first part of your question got a little cut off,
Sorry.
but yeah, I think just to kind of tally up the end of it, it's just these two going through the things. You know, whenever I didn't want to lean too hard into any perspective.
Right.
I wanted to kind of give both. Are they gonna have the baby? Are they not? You know, what's gonna happen? And because there are sides to both, and you know, both of these characters, they kind of see both sides and they split up at a certain point. My real thing I wanted to kind of focus was just kind of, you know, this is a period piece.
Right.
And so when I grew up, you know, you're asking about where do you kind of get this character inspiration? And I did know kids that kind of went through this and had to kind of, I don't want to say step up, but they would try to take charge kind of like how Sam does. And that was just kind of the mentality back then, of kind of like toxic masculinity. Just, I'm a man, I gotta take care of this, let me do it, and not think about it too much. And you know, that's really what, you know, what I love about Anna's side is that Anna is having a whole different journey that's off screen. And you know, she is coming to these things where like, yeah, you know, I think I could have a family with this guy. And while he's just so like, you know, a bullet point, like, I need to get this done before this date. This is what I'm going to do.
Well, you know, one of the things you kind of touch on, but leave it open for you know, Devon's character, or for Anna, is she has a better support network. She's got a family. You know, yeah, you're afraid to tell your parents that I'm a teenager and got pregnant, but at the same time, she's not as scared, I guess. At least that's what I saw in that character, because she's got that support network, which I think is important to talk about. So there are two moments in the film for Sam's character that I identified as the more intense. And I want to ask you, Parker, from an acting standpoint, what you felt like were more intense for you. The one would be finding the drug dealers that ripped you off and holding them at gunpoint and going through all that, or visiting your father in prison. They're two very emotional scenes. What do you, as an actor, what did you feel like was more intense, more emotional for you out of those two scenes?
So I would say both of those scenes are both incredibly emotional. They both have a lot of tension. But the most emotionally impactful, and I would even say difficult scene and most intense scene, where you could really feel the tension on set,
Mhm.
would be after I revealed to my mom, played by Julia Denton, that I had visited my father. So
Yeah.
when I confide in her that I had done this thing that she had been so adamant that I do not do, and when I admit to her that she had been right all along, and my worst fears were kind of revealed, and I just kind of let it all out to her. That was probably the most intense scene, in my opinion. We even had a bare bones set that day as well.
Mhm.
To answer your question, between the two, I mean, Tony DeMille's a force to be reckoned with. So, being opposite side of a camera from him was pretty intense as well. Incredible character actor. Can't say enough good things about him.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, there are a couple of moments in that film that really bring home the intensity.
Well, to me, a great character actor is the one that can play such an awful character that all you want to do is just punch him in the face. And I was watching that yesterday while I was working, and it was like, great. Yeah, I agree with you. Great actor and great compliments. But I'm like, I just want to punch that guy in the face.
The funny thing about both of those scenes are we didn't rehearse those with the act. Like, I would rehearse with them separately on both of
Right.
those scenes. So there are only scenes I think we did that with Parker, where those poor kids had no idea what Parker was going to bring out. So that's real fear. That I think that was take one that made it in, like their initial reaction, jump scare. And then once they figured out, then we kind of, but
Right.
they had the script. I kind of walked them through. We did like a low key just for blocking, and then I, brought Parker around the side, and I was like, go scare,
Oh.
go scare him. Like,
Yeah, I mean, as actors, I mean, your initial reactions always tend to be the best ones in a take. So, but I want to ask the same question to you, Devon. Is there a particular scene in that film that was more intense for you to film?
The confrontation between Sam and Anna on the lawn was pretty intense. I had not seen Parker sort of dialed up to that level yet.
Right.
And so that, I mean, it's exciting as an actor to be met with something that you were not entirely prepared for. Obviously,
Right.
we were all safe. We had an understanding of what was going to happen. But still, just giving a ton of energy, feeding off that. And we also had some external factors that night, neighbors who were not entirely pleased. So that was an intense night on set. And I think possibly fed into a little bit of Parker's emotions.
Nice.
There, so
Yeah, I gotta admit, you went a little Spinal Tap. You went to 11 in that scene, Parker. So, again, I know you aren't setting out to make a political film, Tony, but we were releasing it in today, and with all that's going on dealing with abortion and pregnancies, and our outlet's based in Texas, so it's always a little bit more intense in this state. What do you say to those that might look at this as kind of a political statement about teen pregnancy and abortion or anti-abortion or anything like that? Because you're going to run into that because of the way you're at the time you're releasing it. But what would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, so again, the biggest thing this film supports is choice, and I think having that choice, and so if we have to take a political stance on that, I fully support that. It's I think everybody has the right to kind of choose and be in charge of their lives, and the lives of who they want to kind of bring into this world. So I think we made this film, like I said, I wrote the story in 2014. Had no idea this is, what was going to happen in the past couple months.
Yeah.
Was going to happen. And it's very unfortunate, when we all made this movie, nobody's even thinking that it's even a possibility. It's,
Right.
We're just assuming, and that's kind of how these characters operate. Because again, this film takes place in 2010.
Yeah.
So it's been happening. It's
well, but I think you hit the nail on the head too. I mean, the universal theme is choice, and it doesn't matter what time period you're in. everybody, that's the thing you have to deal with, what choice you're going to make. And again, like I said before, it's not any more easy when you're a teenager and you're looking at your entire future and how you're going to do this, if you want to keep the child or not. So, all right. So we always like to ask a very nerdy question, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. But I always like to take the time, if we have a little bit more time, to allow people to plug what they're doing next, if they can tell us. I know we live in the world of NDAs. We deal with Disney all the time. But is there an upcoming project that you've got coming out that we should be looking out for? And I'm going to start with you, Devon.
No, nothing coming out in the future. I mean, as of now, nothing coming out in the future. Happily auditioning. You can find previous projects that I have worked on that are still available. You can look at IMDb. And yes, happy to.
Oh yeah, we did want to comment on something. I'm still a little mad at Netflix for canceling Teenage Bounty Hunters. We actually enjoyed that show and kind of imagining what was going to happen in season 2, and I was like, the uptight goody two shoes and is eventually going to join the party. Eventually, I'm like, that could have been season 2.
Would have been so great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Parker, how about you? What do you got coming up next?
So in the short term, I'm incredibly focused on seeking representation, finding an agency that suits my skill set and what I am looking to do within the film industry. I'm also focusing on graduating college, which will occur at the end of this year, finally. Long term, I would say there's a lot to be looking forward to, because the other 2 people that you see like on this Zoom screen are incredibly talented. And I think the 3 of us have a lot to look forward to, and a lot for people who enjoy this kind of content to look forward to. Keep an eye out.
Tony, what's your next project?
So I have a lot of things that I'm working on that I can't talk about. But personally,
well, we tried to get a spoiler out of you.
Yeah. In terms of writing, I got a lot of scripts. I'm a big horror fan. So probably the next film that comes out of me most likely will be a horror movie. Icon was just a really kind of connected personal script that I wanted to do for my first film. So now I'm going to get kind of crazy.
All right. Okay, time for our famous nerdy question. Here you go. And yes, I'm going to start with you, Devon. If you could have a superpower or weapon of choice from within the nerd universe to fight the forces of evil, what would you choose? And you can have more than one. We don't limit on just one thing.
Okay. Can I say teleportation? Is
Absolutely.
that all within the nerd universe? Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm going to connect it to our times and our film. And I'm going to say, I'm going to take young women who might need access to healthcare services. I'm going to take them across state lines, and you're just going to teleport back and forth. And
you know what? I got a connection with my sister in New York. She's running an underground railroad at her apartment, which is now an Airbnb where you can stay. And I was laughing with her not too long ago, and she's like, just remember the code word is knitting circle at Jenny's place in Queens.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to join the knitting circle. Yeah.
There exactly. You go. Parker, how about you?
Well, for one, I would love to join Devon in this escapade and assist her with her, with that. But I will diverge for sake of, entertainment purposes. Hands down, turn into any animal that I can, like at any given time. I think because then you have all of the powers. Like you could turn into a rhino and have incredible strength, or you could turn into a bald eagle and fly, or you could turn into a dolphin and still be like, able to do all that crazy stuff that dolphins do. So I think that would be my number one choice.
Oh, that's a great one. We've never really had a comic book character that could shape into anything.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that should be explored. All right, Tony, how about you?
So my first thought was teleportation, and then I had said, okay, well, Devin already said that one. So, and I was like, okay, well, what if I could turn into a dragon? But then Parker just said
Ah,
that. So I'll go with, I think telekinesis, just coming
okay.
off of watching Stranger Things and just being able to.
Yeah, no, well, I tell you what, when we get screeners from Netflix, we have to tell people, it's like, look, someone's got to get 2 episodes ahead before somebody else can start. So it's like massive text messages. Are you done yet? Are you done? So
Mhm.
it's very intense. Also, what I'm hearing is you don't need to be a knight or anything in the next Game of Thrones project. You're just happy to be a dragon.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for interviewing with us. And like I said, it was a great film. I think it does make a bold statement in today's times about the choices that people, have to make in this kind of situation. Devin and Parker, good luck to the both of you on your next projects, and good luck and congratulations with graduating college.
Thank
And Tony, we can't wait to see your horror project. We're big fans of horror. So
Awesome.
we hope we get to interview you again.